It is 6:32, and I'm calling the June 17th, 2024 meeting of the Brattleboro Development Review Board to order. I am going to read the chair's opening remarks. And I will also swear in anybody who is going to be giving testimony.
Looks like we have
What?
Looks like we have at least one, right?
Yeah, we have,
6.
yeah,
No, I mean testimony wise.
yeah, yeah, we have a couple. Okay. At the DRB, we hear applications for land development in the town of Brattleboro and appeals of zoning administrator decisions. Procedurally, the Development Review Board operates on the record. Broadly, this means we take a clear record of testimony from the applicant and any interested parties, and then issue a written decision with our findings. Applicants and members of the public should be aware that as we are on the record, this is your opportunity to comment on and provide evidence relating to an application. Application materials and written testimony are posted to the town website as received. Hearings may be continued at the board's discretion if materially important documents are received after the submission deadline. In the event our decision is appealed to the Environmental Court, the court will not take or consider additional testimony at its hearing, but will look at the evidence from our hearings, the regulations, and determine if the evidence supports the findings and decision of this board. Only interested persons that participate in this proceeding may appeal a decision made by the board, so I strongly encourage all of you to speak up at this hearing. As we are on the record, we are going to ask that you affirm that your testimony will be truthful. So I need applicants. Can somebody take that thing that says not hearing anything, turn up the volume away? Thank you. Thank you. I need applicants and anybody who's going to testify to, if you're on Zoom, please unmute yourselves. If you're going to testify. Okay, and those of you who are here in the room and are going to testify, please stand. You guys aren't going to say anything? Kate, you're not going to say anything?
I don't know.
Well, stand up. Take the oath anyway.
You know me well enough, I'll stand.
Yeah, that's
Just in case.
just in case.
Just in
Okay. Please affirm the following. I hereby affirm that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury. Please say I do.
I do.
I do. I do.
Thank you. Applicants require a majority of the full board to succeed. That's 4 votes out of 7. Let's see, we have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 members present at the moment. If we do not have a full board to present to hear your application, then we will consider a request to continue your application to the next public meeting. After taking testimony, the board will close the public hearing and may vote on your application. The board will issue a written decision within 45 days of the close of the hearing. While we may vote on an application, it is the written decision that controls the timeline for appeal. It should be noted that the town of Brattleboro is a party with interest in land development applications. The town does not have a special status before this board. Documents provided to the board by the town planning department town attorney, or other town departments will be considered in exactly the same way as information from the applicant and all other interested parties. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 17th, 2024?
I'll motion that we approve the minutes, April 17th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of April 17th, 2024. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It is 6-0. Has the meeting been properly warned?
Yes, it has.
Does anybody have any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications to communicate to? No. Okay, I am appointing Tom Mozakowski, who's an alternate, to hear all the cases tonight. Okay. The first item on the agenda is 2024-50, Megan Talbot, residential neighborhood, request for waiver of dimensional standards to approve to construct a 4th floor where 3 stories is permitted, converting the building from 8 units to 13 and 33 Oak Street. Who is presenting this case, this application?
I'm here and my general contractor, Tim Monroe, is here to talk about it.
Okay. Can you tell us about your project?
Certainly. So I purchased 33 Oak last summer and have been working for the past year to get renovation plans moving. Tim is taking the helm here, and we've been consulting with architects to draw up viable plans to convert the existing building, which is 8 units, into 13. We've been partnering with Brian Bannon, who has made it clear that we know that the town needs more housing units, and we found a way to do it within the existing structure of the building. And so we were looking to see if adding an additional level onto the building could be a possibility to make that happen. Tim, is there anything you want to add?
Hi, Megan. Fantastic. I completely, yes, you have worded everything. We are, and it won't even be a full level. It's not the full building that would be a new 4th floor. It's really only like 900 square feet, or around 900 square feet. The 13th unit. And I think that would love to do the whole floor, go up and make the whole 4th floor living space for residents, because I've been looking for other types of information to supply to you guys. I did find an article in the Vermont Digger that referenced last year there was about 2,000 children homeless and about 8,000 Vermonters homeless last year. Granted, we're only doing 1 living unit on the 4th floor. If you guys are able to fund more of it, I would happily do more units there for more Vermonters. And if you guys have any questions, I have the digital plans online, and I've sent you guys. I provided a document that had pictures of all the houses around the 33 Oak Street, so that you could get a look at what the existing buildings look like there. And they're all at least 2 stories. Many of them have a 3rd story window. And I don't think ours is going to be disruptive to the neighborhood. From what I've heard from neighboring people while being there, they are supporting the rehab of the building. It has from my understanding, a fairly dark, actually, it was like a very bright history. At one point in time, it was owned by a piano fabricator, and then it turned into a drug house, and Megan's purchased it, and it's, I think, doing some fantastic work on it. So I could go on at length about this, but I don't want to bore you guys with my ramblings. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for letting me speak.
I'm gonna start by asking you about parking. I know that you're asking for a dimensional waiver, and that's what we're gonna vote on tonight. But having driven by there, and we also got a comment from a neighbor about parking. I was curious as to how many parking spaces you think you're going to have. You're going to have 13 units, and a number of them are 2 and 3 bedrooms, which I think is great for housing, but it's quite dense for the neighborhood. And so talk to us about parking. I don't care which one of you does it, but.
Yeah, Tim, you can go ahead. The entire side of the property when you pull in is currently a gravel lot. And so there's just a ton of space there to actually develop proper parking spaces. And Tim's done some work on this. I'll pause my computer here.
Yeah, page 9 of the picture pamphlet I sent you. I think you guys have the paper printout. I think Brian Bannon said he would forward it to you guys.
The photographs?
With the floor plans?
Yeah.
Photographs, okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Page 9 is a picture of a green CRV and the white back of, I'm guessing that's 31 Oak Street. It's the one closest to the intersection. That full length of property there against that line, we had it surveyed so we don't go over any easements or anything like that and into the neighbor's property. But that whole stretch there can be turned into parking.
So how many spaces are we talking in total?
Well, at least 13.
Sorry to interrupt you. 13?
At least 13. I'm under the impression you're supposed to have at least one parking space in Brattleboro per rental unit. And then there's somewhere I heard, and I may be totally wrong in saying this, I would love to be corrected on it or educated on it, but I heard something about if you're within 5 minutes. So you only need one parking space per unit if you're within 5 minutes of public parking in Brattleboro. I had heard something. And is that something, am I speaking true in that?
You don't need any parking if you're within 5 minutes of public parking.
Then so fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm under the impression we're within 5 minutes of public parking from 33 Oak Street.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask a clarifying question about process, Maya?
Yeah.
If this is just for a dimensional waiver application, and although we're asking some questions maybe about major site plan review, if they were to do this project, they'd still have to come back for major site plan review, am I correct?
No.
No? Why is that? Isn't it a substantial renovation? And
No, it's an existing building, it's already multifamily, and it's just increasing the number of units.
okay, so it's this that's potentially stands in the way,
Yeah.
and that's it, okay.
So if you, just so you're aware, you should have delineated parking spaces, and you should do a parking plan that's submitted. And you can't have more than 10 spaces in a row without it being broken up.
What does the broken up need to look like?
Well, you need to have some kind of planting or some kind of barrier or some kind of an island. Of
Okay,
some
so 10 spaces and then like a tree planter garden thing, and then you
Yeah.
can do another 10 spaces.
Yeah, you could,
Okay.
or another 3, or however many you can fit. But I think that the board would like to see a parking plan, and I don't think it has to come back to the board. We can allow administrator approval. But I
Okay,
think that
great.
that's,
Does that sound good, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay, we can talk about that more, maybe if we have testimony about it.
Yeah.
I have a question about the structure, if I may. It is about the fire safety. Is it sprinklers in this building?
Not yet, there will be
There
sprinklers.
will be, okay. That's pretty great.
Do you know what the existing setback distance is, of the existing property to the side that it's closest to, the north side?
To the Wyndham Windsor property that's on the other side of that's
I think so.
the pink building on is the north side, right? With the blue roof.
The house is on a corner,
Yeah,
41. Mhm.
So the setback is actually I don't know that I can actually read it on this set of plans. The architect and the surveyor drew up a plot plan, and I don't think I've gotten that digital yet. The setback is actually for like 10 feet, 10 to 15 feet of that property. It's narrow. It's like barely 3 feet is what the architects were telling me. And I've reached out to Wyndham Windsor, and I've not actually even gotten to talk to Megan about this. So this may, the thing that I was going to propose to Wyndham Windsor, I believe they are the owners of that other property, was doing some kind of conditional rental of land from their property or purchase, because they're already a housing, to have a great interest in housing development, and I believe they're helping this project itself. So trying to make some kind of contract where they would rent out land to make the fire escape on the north side passable, so that it's not infringing upon an easement or anything like that. And I've called and left a message with them, and I've not heard back from them. I would love help in reaching out to them if any of you have contacts with them. But that's kind of where I'm at. So the architects that I'm working with, they're working on designing an escape route on the north side that would work for a couple of the units where that easement is too narrow to put a set of stairs on that side of the property, unless we are able to work out some sort of negotiation with them where they give over 10 square feet of land or something like that to make this barrier work.
so it's an existing building, so
And
we really, we had nothing to say about the side setback.
yeah, and so to follow up with that though, with any new addition that you're adding, how close will that be to the property line at its closest?
So there will be no new addition on the north side of the building. The only new addition that I've intended on the south side of the building, and on the picture profile that I've sent you, I don't think you can see it. Yeah, it's not on the pictures, but on the south side of the building, if you Google it or you drive by it, you'll see the garage structures. There's two garage, or there's one garage with a door, and then there's a garage that has no door and is like kind of caving in. And there's a little outcropping of cement walkway kind of connecting the corners of that building. So it would be, I'm trying to get a new internet window so I can try and get that picture real quick. There's like 10 square feet of new structure potentially intended on the south side of the building to just make the existing garage south wall line up with the corner of the second garage where the second garage, the right hand or the east wall of the second garage, so that it would just be a square wall, a square face on the south side.
You're just saying there's a little section in the back they might make a little bigger.
On the south side, not on the north side.
The building is staying almost identical proportions.
Yes.
So,
But that won't encroach on the setback in the back.
yeah,
It'll be the same dimension.
It will be.
so the fourth story addition.
Oh.
Wait. I am misspeaking on something. There is a stairway we're putting on the back side, which will be 3'6". The fence line is 4'4" from the north side of the building. And the boundary line of the new stairway, the fire escape on the north side, would be 3'6". So there's a little under a foot space between the stairway and the boundary line. The fence, the existing fence.
Right. Then that's on the side of the building compared to
This is on the north side, right in the middle of the north side of the building.
Right, so it's not the back of the property.
You're not changing the setback in the back
Right.
where the garages are.
The south side.
If you look at this, it sounds like
I can get you, can I?
this stairwell here
Yeah.
is new.
But that's on the fourth floor.
It's all the way down.
Can I share my screen with you
I
guys?
think that would be preferable.
Do you mind?
No, we're setting that up right now.
Okay.
Yeah, because my question is just like, is anything that is a new building going to increase the encroachment into the setback? And it sounds like maybe the stairs are, and maybe some of the fourth floor
You can
unit is. I don't know, because you haven't.
Just the stairs.
Just the stairs, because
It would just be the stairs.
I haven't heard the distance of the fourth floor to the north property line yet.
So I've got a picture that I could show you that would probably better.
In that front section.
It has to be 6 feet, right? With the current regs. Or it should, but stairs maybe can encroach into there, but I forget by how much, and so.
Are you able to share, Tim?
Yeah, let me try. Sharing is not turned on.
Okay.
Um,
Are we concerned with this as a technical issue? Brian, can you answer, is this a problem that we need to worry about?
No, we have a dimensional exception for access, but
For stairs.
let me just run and read that again, but I think that covers it.
Yeah, but so I guess I'd just like to know if the fourth floor unit, if the unit's walls will meet the 6 foot setback.
the unit's walls will not increase from the existing unit, the existing building walls on the north side.
Yeah, I know, but those are already quite a bit into the 6 foot setback, so I just wonder if there's gonna be another part of the building that also now goes into the setback.
On the north side, I don't intend to change any of the existing building envelope except vertically.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't tell because, okay.
It looks like the only
Okay.
thing that would be added there would be that
Yeah.
back stairwell.
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't have the third floor superimposed over the fourth floor, so I didn't know if the fourth unit stuck out a little bit or anything. Okay. Okay, that clarifies, thank you.
But you're not changing the rear dimension, the rear setback. With,
Not of the building, but there's an escape route that we've been trying to plan to put into. If you guys have the floor plans, you can see it on the first floor plan. There's like a stairwell.
That is further out than it is now.
yeah,
So I would say that that's adding. But
so Steve, do we have to, give a waiver on the rear setback as well as on the fourth floor?
So my understanding is that there's a specific exemption for access and safety related.
Yeah, I was just looking to
Yeah.
see, do you know where that is?
Okay, yes.
In the accessory uses table,
Section 301.
301.
Let's go put that in cardboard.
Oh, I have a question while we're waiting. Are any of the apartments accessible without stairs, like for accessibility from on the first floor? Or is it all up? There are two.
Currently, there's no handicap access into the building. We've been talking about having
Yeah.
2 units on the first floor accessible, ADA accessible.
escape.
I would encourage you to consider adding a space at least for a accessible parking space.
As long as we're calling it a fire escape.
Did you get your question answered, Jordan?
Yes. I'm just wondering if we need to talk more about if they need a separate disabled parking space or room for one. But I don't know if that's general, that might be more mixed, not a residential issue.
Just not really germane to a waiver, but
Okay, if it's gonna be dirt anyways, it's not clear where the people would park individually.
it's an element of the parking plan that we would look at.
Because there's a lot of questions from the butters.
And I have
Yeah.
some definite waiver.
Question, okay,
So, can I
Yeah.
throw them out? So in the plans, it looks like you are trying to stick one apartment extra. Apartment 13 is the top floor apartment, correct? And that's a 3-bedroom apartment. I kind of have this visual impression that although it's correct that there's a lot of 2 stories in that neighborhood, it tends to be 2 stories and then a third with the roof line included in the third, if you know what I'm saying. What you're proposing is actually 3 full stories plus an additional story, making the 4th story, plus an additional roof line. And that, for me, pushes us over into not matching the character and the nature of the rest of the buildings around it, especially when the next door neighbor is a 2-story. It's basically 1 full floor and 1 with a roof line. You know, technically 2 stories. But because it kind of like is in a danger zone for that for me, it also makes me think that it would make me think that building that extra tower almost on top of the existing 3 full stories would be prohibitively expensive. And I don't see the real advantage to doing that when we're also facing a situation where there's some concerns about the number of residents, the number of parking. There is no parking out front, as you know, if you know the property. So why, to me, the question to you is why 13 apartments? Why not 12 and not worry about waivers for the fourth floor, what I would call an extended fourth floor? How do the numbers work out if that's something that you decided to go for?
It's a wonderful question. So the way that you were talking about the apartment being in the roof line, that was, and what has been drawn would be communication discrepancies between me, my words, and whoever, and the people that have had drawing things up, because kind of what you're speaking of, I hadn't really thought about that it is actually higher, but we've discussed putting in an efficiency into the attic space of that's already there, kind of over the back end of the building. And that's kind of, is that, I don't even know if that is what how I had been trying to work the project with Megan. This is the first that anyone has kind of voiced this.
I guess, I don't mean to cut you off, but I have a concern about that, just the way it's drawn, but I understand it's an early drawing, and it really is just meant to show the idea, and the roof line even could change perhaps. But I guess my main question is, because we're asked to consider a waiver on not 3, which is more true to the character of the neighborhood, but 4 stories, I'm wondering why the 4th is needed. Because there are going to be concerns about how many bedrooms is it. It's
3 bedrooms.
a lot of bedrooms, actually.
3
It's
bedrooms.
21 bedrooms total, it looked like, from my counting up on the floor plans. And
That's
so,
the as-is drawings or the proposed drawings?
the proposed, yeah.
Okay.
I counted up the ones that were 3, the ones that were 2, and the ones, I think there's 1 maybe, yeah. But I could be wrong about that. So I'm just curious, like, why go through the trouble of the waiver, which honestly to me opens up the question, and rightfully so, opens up the question of why stuff so many apartments in a limited amount of space with limited feasible parking and limited resources. I'm wondering if there's a balance to be struck there for character of the neighborhood and new units, which we wholeheartedly agree should happen in Brattleboro. And Megan could speak to it. Sorry to.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea was just to sort of maximize the space that's there and provide much needed housing units. We're partnering with a couple different state funding sources to help fund this project, including VHIP. And in my work with Paul Martirano, we just kind of came to this conclusion that if there's the space to do it, we know that there's the need to fill it. And, with good management in place and a good parking plan, it seems like why not go for it?
And the only going through all this trouble and changing the roof line and making that one solo apartment in the middle was just a consideration because of trying to appease the nature from the street view or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's trying not to create too much of a tower. That was our balance. In raising, the existing building has that one tower as is on the 3rd floor. And so essentially we're just kind of raising that line. And so what is the tower now is just raised up a little bit so we can get those units in there.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So how tall is this building? I mean, if you count the 4th floor addition, what are we talking about total height?
Let me Well, a story is generally like 12 feet. So 4 times 12, like 48 feet, give or take.
Yeah, but how tall is this exact building being proposed? I
Yeah,
think is what we wanna know.
yeah.
It's 4 stories.
Um,
Yeah, stories is the
Okay.
thing to consider in this district.
And but the height addresses the character of the neighborhood a bit.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Looks like
Okay.
something that's.
And Tim's point about the roof, the roof point being up higher, that's part of stories, that's.
Attics and basements not considered stories.
And the rest of it's coming out.
Yeah, I mean, I just read the definition.
Yeah.
Attics and basements are not considered.
I don't see an issue here, besides what you mentioned, the compatibility question. They crunch the numbers they want to try to maximize the space, I get that.
So, are there,
Well, just in my defense, I'll just say that that sticking that extra thing that they need the waiver for is an extra 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
So if there's concerns of this board for the number of people they're sticking into an existing property and ultra densifying, if there's concerns about that, then we certainly have purview to decide that that's not necessary and say that 18 bedrooms
Yeah,
is
so
enough.
that's not a review criteria. That's something that's already been approved. It's allowed.
For number of bedrooms.
Yeah, it's a multi-family house. They can put as many units into it as fit. It's really just a market decision for them, so.
Yeah,
but we can decide not to grant the waiver to put the 4-story.
Yeah, not specifically on that grounds, but yes.
Okay. In my opinion, the fire safety element is great, you know, and a lot of other apartments might not have the fire sprinkler system. So that if there wasn't a sprinkler system, another apartment would be out of the question, I think.
Well, we will have, as with all construction, we would require of this nature, a Knox box and probably an electric car charger and a designated handicap space and a parking and stormwater plan that's approved by the administrator before the building permit can be issued. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would be interested in knowing what their plans are for lighting as well.
Outdoor lighting? Do you have plans?
Is it necessary? I've heard a bunch of things that you've mentioned, and I would love to have been to be made more aware of. Like I heard the first thing you said was an aux box.
Knox, Knox. It's a fire department. It's communication with the fire department.
Is that the smoke detector system?
No,
No, it's just a box that has keys to the building so the fire department can have emergency access.
Oh, yeah, totally. That makes sense. Sure.
and are you planning to have exterior lighting in the parking lot?
If it's necessary, I'll make it happen. It seems like Brattleboro already has streetlights. Like I haven't been there at night, so I don't know what it looks like at nighttime. And I'm not sure what you mean by lighting. If there's like, you just mean like some motion sensors on the building? Do you want street lamps put up in the parking lot that we create?
No, my concern is more that you don't put up, you have whatever lighting you decide that you do need on the place, that you don't put up big floodlights that are going into your neighbor's windows and everything else. Lighting has to be shielded so that so it's only pointing down, it's not pointing out.
Okay.
And are the stairs gonna be lit in any way? I mean, if I were a resident and I was coming home and I lived on the third floor, or the fourth floor, I'd want light on the stairs. So what kind of lighting? I mean, that is exterior lighting.
It is, and I think, I think all these things we're addressing with the fire marshal. We've had extensive inspections done at this point because the current state of the property, I'm assuming you all know, what it looks like and what it's been for the past bunch of years. It's pretty decrepit, and our number one focus in doing this renovation is providing clean, safe housing for local people who need it. And that's going to include a comprehensive plan for lighting, for sprinkler systems, for this Knox box, for whatever it takes to make this a clean, safe place for folks to live. And we are working hand in hand with Chuck Keir over there to make sure that we are checking all of his boxes and then some, to make sure that these precautions are put into place. Because the last thing that we want to have happen is for 33 Oak to slip back into what it was. And we're looking at providing housing for families, which is why we're building these 2 and 3 bedroom apartments that are going to be affordable. I've made a pledge to the city of Brattleboro to keep these apartments affordable as well, and working with some of these state grants. So, I hear all of your concerns, and I just, want you to know where we're coming from in this design, and that there's really been a lot of care and thought put into those safety elements.
Well, like I say, the fire department or whoever may be concerned with safety, and they may want to have more light than what you might normally want. Do they, and Brian, you can tell me, do they approve things that are that aren't in the zoning? Would they approve a floodlight? They don't have this purview in mind.
Any permit will be conditioned that it has to meet the land use regulation requirements.
Okay.
Yeah, Division of Fire Safety can't override that.
Okay, because just because you're going through the fire department doesn't mean that you're meeting the zoning rules. Just so that you know.
The regulations were written in conformance with what's required by life safety codes. So that was something checked out before they were adopted.
So sorry to interrupt everyone. I've got a Kevin O'Connor entered the waiting room sign on my window. Is that something you guys, should I admit him, or is that something you guys can take back?
Okay. Yeah. Can we hear some testimony from the public?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask them.
Can I just ask you, Tim, were you able to find out the total height of the proposed building?
From what I've got drawn up, I might actually be able to.
Not that we know necessarily the heights of any of the other buildings in the
So,
neighborhood,
On the schematic south elevation plan, all the way on the left-hand side, you can see there's a 10-foot mark that goes through like the roof of what is the first apartment. And so that being spread out over the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, the peak of the drawing would be about 50 feet, I think. Because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, the way you were talking about the attic being on top. So if we're going 10 feet per story plus the attic, that does look like 50 feet to the peak of the existing drawing roof line of the new bit.
Does anyone know how tall that house on the corner of Oak and Western is? That one looks pretty tall.
Oak and what?
Oak and Westerns, or whatever it's called, High Street.
Oh.
High Street.
That's the pinkish one.
I don't think so.
Or no,
Is
it's now gray.
Is it gray?
Yeah.
That's just my eyes. It looks kind of pink in my picture.
Because that one has 3 full stories plus an attic.
Attics don't count.
I'm just saying for
Yeah,
the
yeah,
form and
yeah,
massing of the
yeah.
building, the character.
I used to live there.
And you don't know how tall it is?
No, never measured.
Never measured it. What were you doing?
And I was on the top floor, so it would have been easier.
So are there any members of the public that want to comment? Kate, you want to come forward and
Stand here.
say who you are and where you live and all that?
Yeah, I'm Kate O'Connor, and I live on Oak Street. There are 2 houses between where I live and 33 Oak. And before I say anything, I just want to thank Megan for purchasing 33 Oak. It's going to make a world of difference to our neighborhood. We've been dealing with a horrible situation for 5 years, so I'm so grateful for that. I do, though, have some concerns about the 4th floor, just because of the character of the houses that are there now. I live in a 3-story house, which I think is like really big, and I imagine like putting another story on that house. So that's the one thing I worry about, that just with the character. And I do worry about the density and the parking situation. The only other place, is for people to go down to High Grove. Otherwise, they're gonna park on the street, and we already have limited parking there. So those are my concerns. But again, I don't wanna sound like I'm not grateful for what is going to be done for 33. But I look at my 3-story and I can't imagine a 4th story on it. So thank you.
Any other members of the public? Anybody online wish to speak? Yeah. Dan, do you have any questions? Members of the board?
Well, since you asked, Maya, I should say I'm sorry I didn't know. I don't have any ex parte communications, but I probably should abstain because I'm involved with the VHIP program. Just for,
Okay.
For clarity.
Okay. Are there any other questions or concerns
I
from the
just
board?
wanted to go over what we had so far and see what we group together. So if we were to write in a proposal, we could approve the 4th floor, give them an exemption. We could do, we would need a sort of fire safety plan approved. Or you said,
No, they need to have exterior lighting approved,
then I have sort of a lighting plan approved, and then I have the parking stormwater plan.
parking and stormwater.
And would that include the handicaps? Could we include a handicap space and car charger in that plan, or are those
Sure.
separate things? Okay, so it'd be parking, lighting, fire, exemption for the 4th floor. Fire, I don't think we have anything, so it's clean.
We're also requiring electric charger
Yeah, okay, and that's part of the parking stormwater, right, or would we? Yeah,
and
okay.
electric car charger, and we haven't talked about bicycles, but
Okay,
some bicycle storage space.
okay. I have a question for the town. What are the valid reasons to deny the 4th floor exemption? Do you know of any that you could provide?
It's kind of nebulous, but it's really the character of the area. And it's also a question of how broadly you want to consider it. Like the municipal building is a block away from it. It's considerably larger and bulkier than this. And then you get that transition to the block buildings downtown. So there's a variety of building types. Some of them are really substantial and large, even on Oak Street. But the one on the corner of Oak and Hyacinth, it's probably equally tall.
I think that would be 4 floors, by the way that we count them.
I
I have a related question.
Yes.
Brian, if we approve the 4th floor as a waiver, does that give them license to change plans and convert the entire fourth floor? Rather than middle
No.
section?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Definitely not. And they didn't really address this, but I'm assuming that they're putting this addition because they have to do structural improvements from the ground up, just because that section of the building is really rotted out.
That's 100% correct. And it's, it basically needs to be kind of ripped out. And this is the maximum that we're going to put into this space.
Could we do a deliberative session at the end and decide
Yes.
this? Okay.
We can.
So I move that we move to deliberative session to close this out at the end and move on to the next case.
Okay. There's a motion to move to deliberative session at the end of the meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of moving to a deliberative session? George?
Aye.
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 I agree. Catherine?
Aye.
Dan? Agrees. Okay.
Yes.
So it's 7-0.
We have to tell them what that means.
So what this means is after we hear the rest of the cases, we will close the meeting and it'll be just the board. And we will discuss this and then we will render a decision after we talk about it.
And then we'll get back to you tomorrow.
And yeah, we'll let you know tomorrow. Okay,
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the review board.
thank you.
Yes, thank you for your time tonight. This may be a silly question, but do you need us to stick around
No,
the rest?
No.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
appreciate it.
Okay. The next case is 2024-56, Tri-Park Cooperative Housing, residential neighborhood, request for flood hazard approval to redeck the Winding Hill Bridge Road at Mountain Home Park. Is somebody here to present? Okay.
Yes, I am.
So you
Hello,
wanna
my name is,
just
go ahead.
talk about the project?
Absolutely. So my name is Dan Riddlehoover. I work for M&S Development. I'm a consultant working on behalf of Tri-Park as they work to implement various master plan projects, including addressing both of their bridges. So before you guys today is the redecking of the Winding Hill Bridge. A little bit of quick history. Tri-Park applied for and won a planning grant from the Flood Resilient Communities Fund, state funding program, and used that money to assess both bridges. As part of that, we began working with the same engineering firm to brainstorm what's the most appropriate replacement for each of these structures. Could they be repaired? Could they be replaced? Are they above or below the 500-year floodplain? What kind of design standards could they be salvaged to or rebuilt to? And kind of understand the lay of the land and what really did Tri-Park own. The first step they took with these bridges was the town of Brattleboro Select Board has voted to take over ownership of Detman Drive and the Detman Bridge. Sort of a handful of reasons, which I'll spare you from. But the Winding Hill Bridge, Tri-Park is going to continue to own and is responsible for upkeep and maintenance, and is looking to redeck the existing bridge, basically lifting off the concrete topper and the girders and place a new cast in place concrete deck, structural deck in the same location on same alignment, same width, same length as the existing bridge. That bridge and the hydraulic opening of it was found to be above the 500-year floodplain, which is the standard to which VTrans specs the heights of their bridge. So sort of what's the bottom of the opening of the bridge. It won't result in any much floodplain improvement. I believe the bottom of the new deck is 6 or 8 inches higher than the current. So that's, several hundred cubic yards of water at a time going underneath it. But the bridge is not being made wider. The span is not getting longer. It's a structural redecking. So the bridge is basically going to have the same dimensions that it has today, with improved guardrails, striping for pedestrian walking, and a much higher weight rating standard, so that the bridge will no longer be required to be posted to an 8,000-pound limit.
Can I ask, how much traffic does the bridge get?
There are approximately 350 lots. There's about 20 on Brookwood Drive in the bottom of Winding Hill right there. So there's about 305 lots between Mountain Home Park and Deep Woods, which share access across the Winding Hill Bridge. And the residents, I don't know the exact breakdown between the two bridges. I think the Detman Drive Bridge gets a little bit more traffic than Winding Hill does. But Winding Hill is sort of leads to Deepwood Drive and would lead to all of the Deepwood Home Park. That's sort of the shortest drivable path to get to all of those sites. So I'd say it's 150 residents, 100 to 150 would primarily commute across this bridge. Households, not individuals.
I read in one of the materials, I don't think from the applicant though, that the applicant will construct new check walls. I don't know what check walls are, but is that correct? Oh, that means the guardrails?
It's a little bit different than a guardrail. So check walls are basically the piece of the abutment. You'll have to excuse me. I'm not a structural engineer, but they're the piece of the bridge that ties the bridge deck to the abutment, and they are sort of hidden underneath the bridge deck. They're like how the bridge deck locks into place.
Oh, I see. Okay, but not the actual okay, got it.
There will be new guardrails.
Okay. And then, if you'll indulge me just for a moment, I'm wondering what you can attribute the decline of the bridge to, very poor condition. Because although we're not an engineering, board here, I read something online about the wisdom of using stainless steel rebar, and some bridges do that. And even though it costs a little more, it can lead to an incredible longer lifespan because there isn't steel rebar inside concrete that rusts. So yeah, I wonder if that was, and if the bridge gets salted, that could be
Yeah, great question. So was your question at all about the existing bridge and what caused that one to go bad?
What, just age or, rusting from the rebar inside the concrete splitting it, or if
or was it good? Maybe it wasn't just the weight that they needed, the extra weight.
Yeah, so if you feel like taking a field trip out to Winding Hill, you can climb underneath there and go check it out. But this was very much like a salvaged bridge. It's been in place since the 1960s, and it's quite obvious that it was built sort of homemade using repurposed materials. The girders themselves are disparate dimensions between themselves, one of which has a lateral cut across the webbing of the actual girder itself and has been riveted back in place. So, I don't know that the bridge that exists today it certainly wouldn't meet modern engineering standards. I'm not sure it met any engineering standards when it was originally built. And so it is,
I've been over it.
Secondhand plus 60 years old. I think that's what killed the first one. The replacement bridge is to be structural concrete, which means that inside of the bridge will not be girders, but it will be epoxy coated rebar. So they're basically like dipping the rebar in, I suppose, plastic or whatever actual epoxy is, fiberglassy material, and that gets embedded in, it gets woven together and tied together into the structure of the bridge, and they pour around that. And that will have an expected lifespan that will be greater than the length of the abutments. So the abutments will, in the future, be the limiting factor of the design.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I just wanted to know, why wasn't this administratively approved? Is there just a big project, or?
Yeah, so there's a chart in the flood hazard overlay district that delineates what type of approval is required for each type of action. So this one is a conditional use and required the board approval.
So do we have to make a motion to approve that, or do we just?
Yeah, I'll ask for a motion to approve it.
Okay.
Does anybody have any conditions? I mean, one of them was allowing for striping or some kind of indication for pedestrian use, and I believe, Dan, you already talked about that.
That's part of the plan, as is a taller 42-inch guardrail on the same side as the striping.
So that would be pedestrian and bike. Wait, okay.
I don't know that that will be separate pedestrian and
No,
bike.
I mean
combined.
pedestrian slash bike.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve?
Do we hear any testimony from the public?
Is there anybody here to talk about it?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't think there was. So,
The state didn't choose to weigh in on this one.
no, they didn't. Where's our water guy?
Oh, yeah.
What guy?
Well, I'll motion that we approve the application
To redeck.
to
It's
redeck.
redeck the Winding Hill Bridge Road.
to
Is there a
redeck the-
second?
I'll second that.
Michael seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Dan?
Aye, yes.
Catherine?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Tom? Michael? Tim?
Aye.
And I'll say aye. So that's 7-0.
Thank you all
Thank you
very
very
much.
much. I've been over that bridge. It's kind of,
Nervously?
yeah. It's a little,
Yeah, well-
it's a little narrow for one thing.
It's a little narrow, and one of the big upsides of this approval is that Tri-Park will be able to execute on its construction contract, which has a 6 to 8 week lead time for ordering those materials. And because there are no girders, they're able to go straight to pouring the concrete. And so we'll all be able to drive across a new bridge come the early or middle of September.
Oh,
That's
that'll be great.
spectacularly fast for a bridge project.
Great.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a sketch plan review. Security Pacific Holdings, Service Center District, Automotive Services. And members of the board may remember that we looked at this once before.
For a different property.
Yes.
That's right.
Okay.
Oh, okay, this is at 817, Putney, okay. Okay, talk about introduce yourself, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Steve Wilson with Boulder Engineering on behalf of the applicant. Yes, we looked at a previous project and was discussed with this board many months ago for a valve lane further up the road. And we tried to explore some options for that, and they just we're not consistent with zoning, so we found a new property. You probably know it. It's currently about a 2-acre vacant parcel. Fast Eddie's is right here. I think it's a Chinese buffet down here, and a Verizon store, I think. So currently the site's undeveloped. It's probably pick it up because there's a couple shipping containers on the property currently. Other than that, it's pretty undeveloped. So what my client is looking to do, and they are a operator of Evelyn service centers. They probably have more than 100 stores spread throughout New York, New England. Been in the business for some 25 years. They're owner-operators of Evelyn. They are a franchisee of Evelyn. And this is some preliminary building elevations. We know we have a lot of work to do and a lot more submissions. As you mentioned, the sketch plan. There's a couple of issues I wanted to talk through with you and get your feedback before we make a formal submission with all the bells and whistles associated with that, you know, grading and landscape plans and stormwater plans and utility plans, all that kind of thing. I just want to get some feedback from this board so we can make a good, thorough application down the road. So kind of a typical, if you're not familiar with Evelyn, I think the closest one in Vermont is in Rutland. It'll be a 3-bay service facility. Pretty much focuses on the fluids of the car. You know, it's oil changes and radiators and transmission fluid, that kind of thing. It's not fixing brakes and, you know, engines, and it's not that kind of thing. It's for service. Called Evelyn Instant Oil Change. This is a very typical building. I've done other ones for these identically in New York. Brick treatment on the building, gabled roof, some type of architectural detail at one end near the entrance. So it's not a typical service station that you might see around. They really put some money into the building to give it a nice look and stick with the Evelyn brand. What will the site look like? Again, if you're looking at this sheet, this is Putney Road over here. Currently, there's kind of a free access into the property.
Sorry, 1 second.
Sorry, could you probably present it on your upper side? Yeah, so the camera can pick it up.
You can use my left.
Yeah, sorry.
So currently the site has a bit of unrestricted access with driveways in front of it. So we've already had discussions with V-Trans, and they do support the project, and I'll provide some information on that in our next submission. But we have agreed to basically cleaning up the access, and we'll provide a combined shared access. There is currently a shared access easement with the property here, so there'd be a single driveway for the two. You'd be able to come in, there'd be employee parking and the odd visitor parking along here, and then the cars would circulate to the back of the property, to the service bays. Evelyn, you stay in your car during the service, you just pull right in, you sit in your car while the service is done, they take care of you there, you don't get out of your car, and you go through the building. The building's about 2,100 square feet. Building would operate 7 days a week likely. I don't know, hours to be determined, but generally probably like 8 to 7, I'm gonna say roughly. Saturday afternoons are typically the busiest time, and then there's a kind of a peak during lunch rush, 11 to 1. People kind of get their oil changed during lunch hour. So one of the issues I wanted to discuss with the board is some dimensional issues. The zoning code has a maximum 100-foot setback, except where we have overhead doors, where it seems to say that buildings must be 120 feet back from the street, where you have overhead doors facing the street. I don't particularly see a problem meeting that, but I was coming to talk to you, and if there's flexibility with that, it seems there's some benefit of maybe not pulling the building back and having more green space in the front versus kind of preserving and establishing more green space along the back of the property, as opposed to, lawn area in the front and some landscaped areas. Obviously, it's somewhat self-serving. We would like to be closer to the street. Closer to the street is better for visibility. We think there are some real benefits to this site when, just to give you a frame of reference, just how we,
So,
this line, right?
the bay doors
Yep,
face Putney Road, is
That's
that
right.
correct?
that's right. To give your
It's
friend.
okay in the service center, but they have to be 120 feet back.
That's right.
Is that, and you know that from the design committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
And though I also see the building could be in front of it, is another
There-
option. Right.
There's a building right now on the site plan, there's 100 feet, and there's the 120 feet line.
Okay,
so-
it's very minimal.
It's, like I said, we can make the 120 feet work, but before I make a full submission, I just want to get some feedback if there's flexibility on this. If there's not, we can, we'll go with the 120 feet and just kind of carve up the green space a little more.
But we don't have, we can't give you a waiver for the garage doors facing the street unless it's 120 feet or you meet one of the other criteria. So that would be the town planning committee, right, they'd have to change we dealt with this last time, so I know.
Right.
They would have to change the rule if you wanted to leave it as is. So we have no move, we can't help you there at
Okay.
all. If it sounds like you could move it back, that's fine. I think having green in the front is fine and nice to have more green space there personally.
There is that odd, maybe in this scenario, sort of rule with the regs though, that say though that there needs to be a building's front line between 20 and 100. So Steve gave a couple scenarios in the memo, right? I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, so essentially it's not that the maximum front setback would be getting a dimensional waiver to bring it to 120. It's that if there was another building on this site that was between that 20 and 100 that met the frontage build out and the other requirements that it would need to meet, then this building could be 120 feet back, and then it would be able to have its front-facing doors by meeting that 120 feet setback, but I don't believe that we have any way of having the closest structure be 120 feet from the front line.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that they couldn't move the building back 120 feet without having that structure in front.
Right.
Okay, so never mind, I misspoke there.
You lost me.
You can't just move the building back to 120 feet.
So in that alternative scenario, you would be meeting that setback somewhere between the 20-foot minimum and the 100-foot maximum with some structure. And then this structure would be free to be 120 feet back from the front property line.
Could you rotate the building at this point back, and the front of it could be the front of the side, the non-garage bay door part of the building?
If the doors weren't facing the front, this could be 20 feet from the
And you could see the doors actually better almost if you had them the other way, because you would see them the entire time you drove up and away from or towards the building in any direction.
I'm sorry, I got really confused there. Are you saying we can't have the building 120 feet back with overhead doors facing the street?
Without
You have a
adding
minimum,
another
you
structure.
have a minimum, a maximum setback of 100 feet.
Right?
So yes, you can have your building 120 feet back, but that would be more than the maximum setback. So you'd have to have another structure in front of it that was less than the 100-foot setback, and then you could put it 120 feet back. I
Well,
think
I didn't read
that's.
the code, I didn't read the code at all that way. So you said,
There's a lot of codes.
It could be an office or a,
You could have a toll booth.
yeah, maybe,
Can you?
Photo mark.
It would have to
Yeah,
be
well-
frontage build out.
to 20 feet.
I think it's 20%, so it's not.
20% of the frontage.
Yeah, the maximum front setback applies to the closest structure to the front lot line, is my understanding. So if something met that, then somewhere between 20 and 100 feet from the front lot line, then other structures on the property could be further back than that. So you can look to some of the existing multiple structure developments in this area where there's a building closer to the street and then more buildings behind that.
could a gazebo satisfy that?
If it was meeting the other dimensional standards, one of which is the 20% frontage build out, so to put it in English, if it was 20% of the frontage was actually being occupied by a structure, then you could actually have another structure behind that and not have to meet that standard with the second structure.
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is to rotate the building so that the bays don't face Putney Road.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
That's
same
absolutely not gonna
issues
happen.
before, we can't.
Yeah, that's why we gave up on the other site, just for that issue.
You weren't here, were you here personally last time?
Yeah, he was.
No, I wasn't here for the DRB, my partner was here for
Sorry.
that. I was working
Okay.
with the planning commission on the waiver, or the variance, whatever you wanna call
Amendment to the regs.
it. And that's it.
Yeah, so, yeah, again, I mean, so you went through the process of trying to look at the town planning.
I mean, but to say fairly, that was a proposed amendment to one reg, and this could potentially be a proposed amendment to a different regulation, which maybe would have different persuasiveness or justification.
Okay. So that's one option you had then, to maybe go back, do that process again with this issue.
We're not gonna go through that option again.
We've streamlined our process though. Because of that, we realized we were a little messy with that, and so we're gonna be more efficient with it next time.
I don't know if we have any, I mean, there's lots of other good points in the town's memo that you should consider if you're gonna move forward with the project, but I don't know if we need to go through them all, since there's such an outstanding.
You have a copy of this, right?
Do not.
The town's memo, it's on the website.
It's on the
It's on the
website,
website, sorry. but-
maybe they can email you.
So how tall is this building?
There's some, probably, let's see, the bays are 12 foot over a door, so in the 20 foot range, I'll say. Maybe a little higher with that, the one corner of the building.
Cause in this district, I believe is it 24 feet height minimum?
Yeah, I don't think I'll have a problem meeting that. We'll be able to make some work there.
So, yeah, the
Yeah.
cupola. Yeah.
For a building this size, it would need to meet the minimum height along the entire frontage.
Oh, okay, so they couldn't
They
just
would?
rotate it.
Yeah, I think
Oh.
it's 6,000 square feet. It might be 5,000 square feet is one that is no longer required for the
Uh-huh.
whole.
And there is, in this, what building zone is this? It's
Service center.
Service center.
And then if you were down the road, someone mentioned last time, there is a change in the zoning district and it becomes commercial, right? And in the commercial area,
No, I mean, I think presently industrial
industrial.
allows
okay.
this sort of use, but doesn't have any rules on the service bay doors.
So we definitely have some, I think there's lots in town that could do this. You'd have to look in that industrial district.
I don't have control of those lots. I mean, that's really not.
Sure.
We have an option on this lot. I mean, I don't.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, other lots I don't know about, but yeah.
So, yeah, Maya, do you wanna go through more of the details? I think that we know this, we can't get the front facing bay doors,
Yeah,
that comes
we
up
can't,
quite
yeah.
often here and we can't move on that. 'cause
Yeah,
it was
no,
out of
I
our
think
hands.
you should look at the staff memo that was
Yeah.
written. And,
So the only way, just so I'm clear, the only way this building can be 120 feet back is if there's something in 20% of the frontage between 20 and 100 feet.
Yeah, but that meets
So
the
that would be
height.
a little over 40 feet in length.
In frontage length, yeah.
so it
To
could
give
be
it
an
20% because you're a
office.
little over 20, you're a little over 200 feet, so that would be 40 feet.
It's gonna block the building too.
Yeah, small office building.
Doesn't have to be a minimum height though. Worker.
I think
home.
that has to be 24 feet too.
So that has to be, yeah, I think it would have to be 24
Yeah.
feet tall.
If it was more than 6,000 square feet, it would not have to meet the minimum height
Okay.
for its entire
But
frontage.
But if they put a small building in front, it's not gonna be 6,000 square feet.
Do you want to do testimony?
No, does anybody have anything to say? Any questions from Dan or Catherine? No? Okay, so my recommendation to you is to, go on the website and get a copy of the staff memo and take a look at it. See what it says. And you can talk to the planning department.
Yes, we had many conversations on the last project, last one.
But we have a process that we agreed to at our last meeting about how to receive public members of the public's initiatives or land use reg amendments. So if you ask staff about that, you can see what that step process is and see if you want to do the new and improved formal process, which should be clearer and more efficient than how it was.
For planning.
Yeah, for proposing an
Right.
amendment to the land use regs or anything else that a member of the public wants the planning commission to do.
Thank you for coming. Sorry we can't
Okay, thank you.
help you.
Can't help. Okay. We have to ask Chris to leave now.
Bank robbery. A lot of breaking news today.
Bank? What bank?
Yeah.
What
Okay.
bank?
Local man, M&T Bank on Canal Street.
Oh, the new one? I mean, not the new one, the one where they closed downtown? We'll let you
Yes.
know what happens. Chris.
Okay, thanks. Congrats on retirement.
Thank you.
So we're in deliberative session now, or do we have to vote for that?
We're going to,
Good catch.
We voted already, so we're
we
good.
voted already, so yeah, we will go into
And will
deliberative
we
session.
come back?
Do you have any administrative matters of new business yet, or?
Let's do that first so we can so you can go, right?
Oh, that's a good idea, yeah.
But then we
Oh.
still need that going.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna leave this in here when I go wait anyway, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
never mind. So it doesn't matter which direction.
I don't
Yeah.
think, does anybody have any new business or administrative issue? Just to remind everybody that the meetings are now at 6:30, not at 7. And,
Wednesday, not on Mondays.
Yeah.
and they're not on Mondays, they're on
Except
Wednesdays.
Because of a holiday.
We have a weird Wednesday holiday. Not that the holiday is weird, but the fact that it's on Wednesday is unusual.
I apologize for being late, guys. I had 7 o'clock on the brain and forget it.
You can blame me.
Okay, I think we're in
I
deliberative
think we have to
session.
wait. Are we not recording anymore?
No, we won't be.
Yeah, I can stop.